right, we are back, and you're here at the player networking event at ASU campus. And Dan, I tell you, it's always a pleasure to talk to Daryl.
Yes, it is.
He is a wealth of information and really a role model for a lot of younger players. And we'd love to have him on the show and drawing that analogy to try and get people to know that basically anything in life you need a plan for. You got to do it. You got to do it. One of the things that you need a plan for, obviously, if you're going to do any kind of work on your home and you're going to get into a little bit of recreation, maybe like Dan recently bought a house and there's a pool in the house, or maybe you want to put a pool in your backyard. But one of the things that we really want to focus on today, the benefits of having a pool and how it can help in your rehabilitation if you have been injured. And joining us right now is Brian Morris from We Fix Ugly Pools. Brian, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you for having me.
What do you think of this? This is just awesome.
This is unbelievable. Seeing all the legends of past and present, you know, you see all the people and being able to actually interact with them has just been phenomenal.
I know.
And I'm not gonna lie, the food's pretty good too.
Yeah, the food is excellent.
Excellent.
We've been tasting it along the way between breaks, so it's been pretty good.
There's nothing shabby out there, let me put it that way.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about, for those of you, our new listeners who maybe don't know anything about your company, tell us about We Fix Ugly Pools. Then I want to get into some of the rehabilitation that we talked about with Daryl and why it's so important.
Well, in a nutshell, We Fix Ugly Pools was actually arose from the fact that there was a neglect in our business. As you know, as a contractor, I hear you preach about it. You know, there's no substitute for good quality. And so I spent my life fighting all these other pool builders when we were building pools about building great pools, but people didn't want great pools. They didn't want pools that were built right. They were buying a price. Well, everybody that does that ends up regretting it later. So we came out to this market where we were ready to just be the guys who said, I wish I would, I wish I could, I wish I did. And we became the guys that learned to fix everyone else's mistakes. So for the last 13 years, we've been an institute in the Arizona construction market for swimming pools. So.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things we find out a lot about too, about fixing other people's mistakes, because you've got to go back in and before you can leave your mark on that property, you've got to be able to go back and make sure that there's no other bad marks, because as everything else, you look at it, it's usually the last person in. When they see something, they think you did it. And that's not the case. That's not the case. We find that a lot in painting, in carpentry, in drywall work. I mean, I'm sure you find it in your industry at the same time too. And sometimes what bad stuff is left over is you have to fix that before you can do your work.
Is what the home inspector gets to find.
We have to make sure that we're not leaving
and then
anything
I go
left
through
for
saying,
Dan.
you did what?
Yeah, that's right.
And you leaned it against what?
That's right. You might, as we used to say when we're back in the studio, you didn't build that.
Exactly.
You know, so,
I hope to God you didn't build that.
That's right.
We just know, Steve, the reason why I really have always enjoyed your show is you and Dan have a different take on the market than a lot of people. A lot of these companies are in here, they're just blow and go. Just want to get in, get out. And they think that by giving the customer the lowest price, they're doing them a service, and they're not. And that's what I really preach against every day of my life. So we're not the lowest guys, we're not the most expensive guys, but when we're done, we're going to be the most fair as far as the product you're getting. And that's what we firmly believe in.
That's important. Now, one of the things that, you know, we hear preached all the time, especially on a lot of the medical shows, when people have injured themselves or even pro athletes, they need to have some type of aquatic therapy. And especially because when you're in water, it's a whole different, there's less stress on your body, and there's a whole lot of different benefits. Tell us a little bit about some of those benefits.
Well, the aquatic rehabilitation has really taken hold the last 10 years. I think the more that we research it and understand it, the more we're going to realize the benefits of it. The most obvious benefit you have is that there's less pressure on your joints. So if you're trying to rehab a knee or a shoulder, you're able to work it in an environment that not only keeps it into a locked place, but allows it to move without the stresses of all the other forces that are acting on your body. That is probably hands down the biggest thing when you look at like ACL tears or calf damage or thigh damage, those kinds of things, knee replacements. We're finding out knee replacement patients are able to cut their rehabilitation time in half because they're getting full range of motion earlier. It's not as painful because they're not putting the stress on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I mean, that's amazing, and especially, you know, one of the things that you see a lot in a lot of different different sports, not just football, is when players do get injured with the same type of injury, it seems that they're coming back faster and faster. And I think a lot of that has to do with some of the newer techniques that come up. For instance, again, aquatic type therapy, which is going to help you just heal faster.
Well, I think for a long time, the thought was that pro athletes were treated a lot better. Actually, they're just given more information, they're given it sooner. Now we're starting to see that information trickle down to we're seeing high school athletes, as these injuries are becoming more progressionally worse at the younger ages, being able to come back from these, and not only come back from them, but heal in a way that's not going to leave a lifetime mark on their performance. And then let's fast forward. We've gone through the cycle. We've gone through the cycle of being an adult and being a pro athlete or just an athlete in general. And now we're older and our knees are going bad and our backs are hurting and our shoulders are deteriorating.
Don't remind me. The things start wearing out. I keep kidding. I tell my doctor, I said, by the way, can't we just call in for a new part? You can't do that, especially when you have certain parts that, are just injured, that just need to heal so they go back to their normal range of motion. I mean, we all go through it as we get older.
They can't print those yet.
Wait a minute, that's a good point. How about some of that 3D printing? You can create
That's
all those
right.
things.
Just create a new joint.
I don't think, but that's almost like doing a hologram. I don't know how that's going to work. It work really well.
One of the wonderful things that Brian and his people can do is, like when it comes to a spa that's been around the house and it's not too flexible, he actually can help drop it down so the residents in the house that, like me, the bones don't work too well, can bring it down to a level where you can just sit and swing over rather than stepping up and over and then a trip hazard over into it. He can make things more, accessible.
Yeah.
Well, for years we had steps and then you had handrails. Well, when you're stepping up 30 inches and you're having to step out 30 inches, it's still a long way to go. And even the advancements in the spas, now we have these therapy spas that allow you they're deeper, they allow you to swim against them. We're seeing, we're actually installing underwater treadmills into swimming pools now, which actually forces that range of motion in 3 foot of depth water, so their bodies are out, but their waists are down or submerged. They're in a water-driven hydraulic treadmill that actually forces the movement, so they can go ahead and act like they're on a treadmill for an hour, 2 hours at a time without having to really worry about the stress that it puts on the rest of your body.
That's really fabulous. Absolutely. You'd be able to go back and do that. Where can we find that?
That's available online.
Can we come over now?
Yeah, I know.
Right after the event, we'll be over.
But even just the simple stuff. There's better flotation vests, so that'll suspend you in the water, so you can have free range motion. There's better water weights. There's all kinds of different pulley systems that allow you to swim against pressure as opposed to swimming against the current like you would if you had an expensive swim jet. Now the swim jet systems are becoming more affordable. We can do mounted over the deck as opposed to only hard installed like they were before. I mean, there's a myriad of things that are helping to make these pools better equipped just in the normal residence for water aquatic therapy.
I've actually seen one pool that actually had a ramp and was built all the way into the pool, so they had a waterproof wheelchair or chair system that just gently lowered right with the ramp so the person could enjoy the pool, but it was a nice long ramp into the pool.
We're actually seeing a lot of that with paraplegic and quadriplegics, where their trainers will actually take them into the water, take them in when they're submerged, get them into the water and move them around, allow them to float around. But the couple things that does, it allows them to get that full extension motion, stand them up and be supported either by a flotation vest and be able to get the movement. It's crazy the stuff we're seeing nowadays.
So let's talk a little bit about, obviously, if somebody else, do they have to do a lot in the way of remodel work if they need to have therapy when they come over, when they have some of these? Can this stuff be retrofitted in an existing pool, or does it have to all go in a new pool?
Obviously, there's a point where you get a lot of stuff that has to be retrofitted. The lifts, the handrails, some of the aquatic swim jets can all be mounted into pools without affecting the structure or the shape of the pool as it is. So you can actually do it very affordably and very quickly. Some of the more invasive stuff like adding a ramp or putting in the hard-mounted jets or adding the treadmills are going to require more work on the pool. So it really is just not just being able to equip it, but what level of equipment we're looking for.
Oh, okay. All right. So Dan, what kind of equipment would you like Brian to come over and install over at your pool?
On our pool, well, it's gonna probably a little bit less of a step because the steps at the pool are so steep. That's one of the things. Even though we've had a rail put in, they did a wonderful job of putting the rail in the pool, because little did we know when they came to put the rail in, they emptied the pool, they actually cleaned the pool body, and then they installed the rail, and then they refilled the pool and sent people over to balance the pool afterwards. We didn't even know that was part of it. They just came over and did it.
See, now there you go. That's what you needed.
That's
and it was handled.
That's right.
So we always like it when we can have obviously a testimony, and it's kind of nice because Dan's a great testimony.
All right, let everybody know, Dan, as all our regular listeners know, Dan lives near
the mothership.
University of Phoenix Stadium, which we love to call the mothership. So everybody over to Dan's house, we're going to go in the pool.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
It's pool
That
party
sucker's
time.
cold.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I want to just touch base on before we wrap up the segment is the fact that a lot of people, when they come in, they want a pool, but sometimes it's part of a bigger scope of work. Do you find that when you sit down with your clients, are they thinking big, or are they only thinking, I only want the pool and the rest can come later?
Well, it's really kind of an ambiguous question. Some people come in, they want the world, knowing that they can only buy the small piece. Some people come in wanting to buy the small piece, but want to add the world. So what we do is we sit down and we consult with them, and we develop an overall plan. And that could be a 2-week plan, a 2-month plan, or a 2-year plan. The idea is to build the things that give them the most of what they want, need, and desire, but give them a plan for anything they can't get right now. So those are the hopes and dreams stuff that we add down the future. When we finish, what we want to do is make sure we're putting the right package together for any budget. And I tell every customer, your only limitations are your imagination and your budget, and I have no limitations to my imagination.
And you should see his new kiosks that he has. Those are really neat. He can help you with a lot of the idea on your plan, at like the kiosk that I saw at the home show. That was really neat. So yeah.
Yeah, we try to make it easy to find us, easy to understand your project, but even more importantly, we're having to educate you for the process along the way.
And one thing I want to wrap up with is the fact, you do a lot of community type work here in the Valley. Tell our listeners a little bit about some of that.
Well, as we know, being in the pool business, we're really emotionally tied to the fact that there should be no drownings. So we're always drowning awareness, either with the Phoenix Children's Hospital, SRP, the WaterWise programs, or the City of Phoenix Fires, some of the other fire departments. City of Phoenix really has a great their program for anti-drowning or drowning prevention is pretty strong. We also like to work a lot with the local police and fire departments when they have fallen officers, raising money for the 100 Club lodge events. So we're constantly busy. We put together about 43, 44 events a year that we participate with, everywhere from Mesa all the way over to Avondale. So we're very community oriented. That was the idea of the company when I started it, was I wanted to be able to give back, and that's where we are. Drowning is part of the reflection of our company, and then you look at the people who are putting their lives on lives for us every day.
That's so very important. Brian, how can our listeners contact you?
We're real easy to find. You can type in wefixuglypools.com.
And I know there's a story behind that logo, because Brian's probably been here as long as I have in a Valley, and I can't even remember when there wasn't a time where I came across your logo.
I love it. It's just something that, I got tired of people asking me, what do you do? And I tell everybody, we fix other people's mistakes. Honestly, we fix ugly pools.
Well, there you go.
And of course, there's nothing uglier. The only thing that should be ugly in your backyard is the pool guy. That's why we have the ugly pool guy. So,
Wait a minute. We had a discussion last week with Dan and I when we had a guest on it. We were talking about like the commercial you see on TV. Don't let Melvin come by and fix your house. Well, we've got one for our show. Don't let Bob come by and fix your house.
Uncle Bob.
And there's a story behind Bob.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Good old Palo Verde Bob,
Palo Verde Bob.
And he could actually
be
probably one of your ugly pool guys. Maybe they can have their own networking event, or I don't know.
If you're ugly, show up. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that we would hands down be the best looking networking event there is, no matter, because there's a lot of ugly people in this world.
All right. Well, like I always say, while you're working, if you can't help somebody out, and it's not like Ray said earlier, it's not all about the money. It's about the relationships that you have with people. And what Brian and I and Dan leave our customers is is peace of mind, and that's what you want to be able to go home and know that you got your best value for your dollar, as well as know that they're out there. They're not just another contractor, somebody doing work here in the Valley, that they actively take part in the community and give back something, so that this way they're not better than anybody else. They just like to give more.
I appreciate that, and that's really the
And
motto
I
of
really
our
appreciate
business.
it. Brian, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Enjoy
And
it.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, when we come back, we've got a great delicacy coming your way. Mary Heitmeyer from Chef du Jour is going to share a little bit about getting your food together for the big game, and then we got
Oh, she's
more
bringing a
superstars.
delicacy. She's not a delicacy.
That's what I said. Yes.
Oh,
She's bringing, and besides that, she's got samples, so you don't want to miss this. So stay tuned. You're listening to Image Home Improvement.
I'll be standing
live
right there.
here.
I want to see it.